Oh.
No, I'm on WhatsApp with that. And it said, connection, but it won't let me access the internet because it says I don't have a valid IP address. So really it wants me to hook in, but I don't have that.
Yeah, we have a Google Plus page for IT. So it's a community. Yeah, and this is closed to teachers. Well, to district staff.
Someone figured it out. I don't know how to do that. Or maybe just eventually figure it out.
I was on Oh, maybe. So I'm picking up all of these.
Yeah, those are
but-
just applicants.
Yeah. But got reflector on.
And where your device? This is the device. So if you go to, so that it should show up here.
Unless it's one of these deals, I can see it.
No.
Okay, I'm into the control panel network and internet network sharing center. I'm there. Yes.
Let's see, I just, Mark, if you wanna, can you just, are you presenting that?
No.
Yes, it's not at all. I certainly should have
Please. I'm there.
I wonder if it's getting confused with yours.
Yes, internet protocol version 4.
The other option is we'll use yours.
So it's already checked. So do you want me to just,
Looks like it's
Okay,
reloading
properties.
anyway.
okay, it's, yes, it is.
It was mine exactly. There's the current time.
No, sure isn't.
How dependent are you on
Yeah, that's all right. I don't have to show it.
it? Okay.
All right.
Good roll.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice camera angle. That's good. I'll check that out. It's open. Thanks, folks.
Yeah, sorry about that. There's always some technical something. My name is Jennifer Moss, and I'm an instructional designer at UAF eLearning. Thanks for coming, and sorry about the technical problems. We are streaming this session out over Google, over YouTube streaming service, and it will be recorded and available later as well. And you can get to the presentation materials by going to the SCED site and clicking on Advanced Google Calendar. And then on the presentation link here. And that takes us out to our presentation material website. You'll be seeing this in pretty much all of our sessions. I want to point out a couple of hashtags that we're using, the GAF-AK and the GAFE, and it stands for Google, what does it stand for, Dan?
Apps for education.
Apps for education, I guess, yeah. So that's a hashtag you can use on Twitter, on Google Plus, and wherever else you would like to use it. this session, we're going to talk about using Google Calendar, and specifically not really the basics, too much of the basics of using Calendar. I'm assuming everybody in here uses Calendar already, so I'm going to go over some of the maybe not as obvious, although if you've been using Google Calendar for a long time, this might be some review for you as well. Some of the things that you can do kind of beyond the basics. And I wanted to start off with just a few slides of ideas for ways you can use Calendar in your class that may not be maybe something new. I better not jump out of here because it will take me out of the stream, right? If I jump out.
You could maximize that window so folks on the stream would see it larger, or go into present mode for that window.
So using appointment slots to schedule conferences, we're going to go over how to do this. If you don't know, does anyone do this already for classes, for students, working with students, meeting with students? So that's a fun thing to do. You can schedule specific times to meet with people, and they can kind of sign up for those times, which might be a great thing to do for parent-teacher conferences, for example. Embedding, using a class schedule and embedding it in your website, your class site. So if you're using Google Sites, or if you're using WordPress or Blackboard, you can embed your calendar in any of those places for students and parents to reference. You can add attachment files to those dates that you put in. So we'll look at all of these in particular. You can add video calls for study sessions or meetings one-on-one with parents to start a Google Hangout. And then you could also potentially, from an administrator point of view, you could use Calendar to map out the standards for all of the classes, and kind of go down. You could have each teacher could have a different section, and you could use that color specifically for that teacher, and then have the different standards all matched out. But you could also do that within your own class and have different calendars set up for different standards that you're covering, or for that week or whatever, and kind of break it down like that. So just some interesting ways to use Calendar. But what I really want to do is go into Calendar itself and look at some stuff. So does everyone in here use Calendar? Is this everybody here is a Calendar user? So I'm just going to show my calendar. This is my standard calendar. So I've already got a bunch of stuff in here. I could show you a blank calendar, but that would be kind of boring. Obviously, to create a new event, you can click on the Create button. Another way, there's multiple ways to add new events and to do a lot of things. You can do a quick add or a create. So if you create a new event, let's go in here and say, let's see, let's just say lunch. And you could, can you see that? It's pretty small, isn't it? Is this going to mess things up, Dan, if I change the resolution?
No.
Okay. Okay, that looks a little better. So in this event section, you can set up an all-day event, or you can set up, a not an all-day event, so a specific time. One thing I think is a little interesting about this, and kind of a subtle detail, is if you set up an all-day event, click on that, it changes some of the things down below. And what I find particularly annoying is that it shows me as available to the world. So I always have to remember, if I'm really attending an all-day event, I have to go in and set that busy button. If you are saying that it's a specific time, then it will tell everybody that you're busy nicely. It also lets you set up different time zones, which is very handy if you're working, maybe you are working somewhere in the lower 48 and you need to schedule appointments. That I found from hard experience takes a little bit of getting used to, so you have to put in if you set your default time zone for Alaska time, then you need to put in, Eastern time or Mountain time or whatever, and keep everything very defined so calendar knows what to do to give you the right notification at the right time. I've run into trouble with that when I've not set the time zone for every event and I changed my default to be a different time zone, and then suddenly I'm an hour late for a meeting or an hour early, which both has happened to me before. Repeating events, you probably all use this function, repeats weekly, monthly. You can set up a nice repetition. You can have it repeat for 4 occurrences and then be done, etc. Adding a video call will create a Hangout link for the attendees of that particular time. So they just have to go into that calendar event, click on the join the meeting, and then they'll be directed to join that Hangout. So when you're meeting with parents or students, that's very handy.
I'm sorry, where's that?
This is in the, it's in the
No, I meant just the Google Hangout.
video call here.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
And you can change the name as well.
Okay, so that's something, and I even did I can't remember what it, anyway, made a post about it. I can't get that off as default, so I have to, for every time, I have to go remove, because it automatically, and I can't figure out how to get it off. And the discussion was also like, yeah. But I saw that yours, when you made your lunch thing, it was not automatic. So how do I get that off?
We'll in a minute, we'll look in the settings. We'll go back and we'll be getting into the settings. But if you didn't find it there, I'm guessing that you went to the settings for your calendar.
I have totally explored.
Yeah. So my
Fearlessly.
guess is that is something that at the administrator level is something that was chosen for you and that was not chosen for us. Yeah. So you might contact the person in charge of that and just ask about it. I can choose, I have a ton of different calendars. These are just a fraction of the calendars that I have here are just the ones that I've chosen to be able to see regularly. So we'll look at how to do that, turn on and off visibility. You can add an attachment. So if you are setting up a calendar for your course, and you want to give directions that kind of go beyond the scope of a couple of sentences that you would put in a description, you could put in a PDF or something for the homework. And then your students could always find that assignment and be able to download it pretty easily. So you can choose from Google Drive, you can upload, etc. And of course, you can make it public or private. The private will, if someone else has access to your calendar and you click on the private, it'll just say busy. It won't give the calendar details, even if they are signed up to see those calendar details. So you can kind of override that on a case by case. You can invite other guests. So, and
So if we click private though, that just affects the people that can see our calendars. So like if you invite Dan, he's gonna,
He's invited to this event, so he's gonna see the details. But so on the calendar in general, you can set the default to be public or private or viewable within your particular domain. There's different things you can choose. The private will override that though. So for Dan and I, we'll see the details on this event, but for someone else, for Tina, who also can normally see all the event details, she won't be able to see this particular one. She'll just see this one.
so if we're setting this with the class,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, we're doing it for the class, like our admins have access to our calendars. I mean, I guess I don't care, but yet at the same time, should I set that as private so only the students are looking at it, or?
Depends on if you want want parents to be able to see it and administrators. I don't think there's anything, if you're just doing your class schedule, if you're having students actually participating in the calendar, so you're actually inviting them to events using their Google address, then you might want to set the default for that calendar as private, which you can do in the settings, which we'll get into in a minute.
If someone has read-write access to your calendar, even if you put private, they're still going to be able to see all the details, correct?
For that particular calendar, yes. If they have read-write permissions, then they'll see everything. Yeah. But Dan on this calendar doesn't have read-write. He can normally view everything that I can, and Tina can normally view everything. But by setting this as private, I'm cutting Tina out of the loop, but Dan can see. Yeah. We have some conference rooms set up on our domain that we can reserve the room for using calendars, and that's something that an administrator would set up. So if I start typing in, I usually start typing in the number. Other people might do it differently, but I start typing in 1 because I know that our conference room is UAF Benel 145, so I can reserve that room that way. So that's super handy for us as a group. Now, what's particularly challenging sometimes especially when you're working in a group, is finding the right time to get together when everybody's free. So this tab, Find a Time, I use a lot. So I have Dan in here, and we're on Saturday, August 1st, so let me go to a weekday. So this is next week. So I'm trying to find a time when we're both free on Monday, the 3rd. And it looks like Dan's already busy for lunch, so we're not going to go have lunch and talk about Google Calendars. But maybe I could meet with him at 12:30.
I could change that if you go to a Thai restaurant, maybe.
Okay. Deal. But maybe I want to actually add Tina to that list as well. And so I'm going to add her. So we could actually have a huge list of people here trying to find a time. So it's a really fast and easy way to try and coordinate with people who are very busy and have way too many meetings. And one of the things that we all use, or most of us use in our group, are setting the office hours. So you can see this grayed out area here. We all, on the design team, we all have slightly different office hours that we block out. I get to work at 8, Dan comes at 8:30, Tina arrives at 9:30 typically. And so we have different working hours, and you can set those up in the calendar settings, in the main calendar settings, which we'll find in a minute. But that's really handy also, just to know that, oh, they don't get in at 8 o'clock, so I get a schedule for 9 or whatever. Also, paying attention to whether guests can modify the event and invite others and also see the guest list. Depending on what you're trying to do, those can be very powerful. Maybe I want to give permission for my guests to be able to change that in case they need to, and that would be okay. So, okay, so I'm not going to save it. I'm going to discard. So we're playing around. Another way to create a calendar event is to use this quick add feature, which is just that little drop down triangle on the right side of the create button. A different way you can actually access that quick add is just by typing Q if you have keystrokes enabled, keyboard shortcuts. So we can quick add an event, lunch, August 12 p.m. And that automatically shows up here.
For the quick add feature, you'd want to be in the calendar that you want that event added to.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So if I wanted to add something to a different calendar, I would switch over to that calendar and say September 3rd, or you could just do 9/3. No, I think you have to actually, it's adding it to my default, so it adds it to the default.
Oh, okay.
So, but I can edit that event and I can change the calendar to my class schedule. So I have a lot of calendars here that I have created. Has everyone created a new calendar? Do we need to look at that? It's probably old.
But I want to learn how to delete, because now that I've taught for several years, I have 1,500.
I do too, so we can do that. Okay, let's go into the calendars. So let's just go into settings. You can go under My Calendars settings, or there's also the cog wheel over here. You can get to settings, or you can simply, if you have keyboard shortcuts set up, you can just type S, and it will take you right into calendar settings. To turn keyboard shortcuts on, it's down at the very bottom here, enable keyboard shortcuts. If you have that turned to yes, then you can save a lot of time by using that quick add. You can go back and forth between different views. Month view is M, day view is D, agenda is A. I find it to be pretty handy for getting around. So we're in the general calendar settings here. I have my time zone specified in case I have meetings with people outside of Alaska. And also as a distance instructor, it's important for me to have my class calendar set up with the Alaska time zone, because everything's happening for me on the Alaska time zone, but for my students, they might be anywhere in the world. So you can play with lots of different settings in here and set your default views. I always have automatically add invitations to my calendar, so usually I'll get an invitation in my email, but if you have this set to only display invitations that I've replied to, you might miss some invitations that you're getting. So I think that, for me anyway, I like to have all invitations like in my calendar. If I haven't replied, it'll give me a little arrow indicating that I need to take some action to reply if I'm going or not. I need to RSVP. Okay, so let's go into the calendar settings for all calendars. That's for the default. The first one we looked at was for the default. So here are all of the calendars that I either subscribe to or I own. Way too many. We have, at the university, we have calendars that are set up automatically for us by our administrators. And for example, this one right here, Computer Info and Office Systems, which is a class that I teach. And I don't know that you can really delete it from the system exactly, but you can unsubscribe. So, or we have the ability on our system, the administrators have allowed us to unsubscribe to it. So
that it just won't show up, or it'll get kicked to the bottom, or?
it disappears from your list. Yeah, so you would have to resubscribe to that calendar specifically in that add another calendar section. Yeah. So if you get tired of looking at all of those on this back end, the only ones that are going to show on the list are the ones that on the front are the ones that you've checked here. Now, we can go into the sharing settings. And this is where you make the calendar public. You set the default for this. So this is my course calendar for the class that I teach, and I have made it completely public to the world, so students don't have to be logged in to see what's due and what's upcoming. And they can see all event details, not just the free or busy. And if this was not checked, then I would have the option to share it with everyone within just my organization, or I can make it completely private and not share it at all. So maybe it's just something that I want to look at. This one I want to share with the world. And then you can also share with specific people and give people editing permissions. So I could invite myself, my other email, Gmail, and I can make changes to events. And you can also remove people. It's accessed by clicking on the trash can. I'm not sure why I have these others, so I will get rid of them. So now the only people who can make changes and create new events are myself and my other public or non-Google Apps for Education account.
There's a calendar that's in my list, and I said to show it, but it doesn't actually show up.
It doesn't show up. Is it one that you subscribe to or one that you created?
It's one that was shared with me.
Okay.
And they've given me read-write access, and I've never been able to see it.
Huh. So it could be, and you clicked the little button and clicked on Save Settings.
Yeah, I had that happen to my supervisor in Bethel, and we couldn't figure out how to get it to show up either.
Monsters.
Yeah, so I ended up asking her, she was going to have the person who shared it with her reshare it and see if it worked the second time.
Did it work this way?
I don't know because I came here.
Yeah, you know, it's, sometimes there are little bugs like that. I would try to have her unshare it and then reshare it, try it again, go through the process again, and make sure that the settings are specifically for you to be able to view and edit, whatever. Yeah. And also, if she is on a different network than you are on, if that's true, then there could be some issues as well. So if you are in different districts, if you're going across districts, then there may be some higher level permissions that would have to get modified. And I don't know from the administrator level if you can specifically say, oh yes, this calendar in particular, you can have you can have outside permissions for. I'm not exactly sure about the administrative level stuff.
I have an embarrassing question because I should know by now, but initially when OIT set up these automatic calendars for UAF, the students couldn't see them without us going in. But then last semester, one of my students said something about, well, you don't have anything on the calendar for us.
Yeah.
And it caught me off guard. So are they automatically, or do we have to come in and actually?
You actually have to add them.
Okay.
I don't use the UAF OIT generated calendars because it gets really complicated if you're using Blackboard.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole completely different calendar in Blackboard and nothing quite meshes together. So we recommend kind of putting all of that aside, creating your own Google Calendar that actually is even better because you don't have to use a different calendar every semester. You can just keep using the same calendar and then embed that one in your Blackboard, right up front and center, and remove the student access to the others.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we kind of get around that because it is confusing for students for sure. And between that and making sure your grade center due dates are all up to date, and having a schedule for them, that should be on the
Okay, so just go in and create its own calendar and then invite the students by their email.
I don't even invite them, I just make it public, and then just embed that within Blackboard. Speaking of embedding, we can look at that. Let's take a look at that process. So, clicking into that particular calendar setting, so now I'm in my class schedule. There's a section called Embed This Calendar, and you can get some code here to stick it into the HTML tab in Blackboard or in WordPress, or you can actually use this for Google Sites as well, although there is a calendar add function in Google Sites, so you can do it both ways. What I like to do when I'm embedding a calendar is customize the color, size, and other options. And so there's that little link, and I click on that. And it lets me change the view to agenda or to month. I usually leave it at month, but we have a lot of other academic due dates and things from other calendars that I want to make sure the students are aware of that I might not want to take the time to copy and paste into my own calendar. So on the left, you can choose from all of the calendars that you have subscribed to. You can choose other ones to display. So, no, and now it's not scrolling. TA calendar. I think I'm in the wrong. Let me try that again. I'm gonna just go back out to calendar. I am signed into 2 different Google accounts right now, so it might be getting a little bit confused. So I have other calendars here. I have subscribed to the UAF academic calendar by typing it in here. Let's scroll in this view. So scrolling down, I can see a bunch of different UAF academic calendars that there's a academic calendar and there's UAF eLearning calendars and stuff. What I really want is the UAF calendar. So I'm going to go back into the settings for that particular calendar that I want to embed. And yes.
I tried to look that up and it said not a valid email address.
You might have to go under the browse for other interesting calendars. I think I found the address through the UAF website and clicked on their Google Calendar subscribe button. Most of the calendars, when they embed it, there's a little link on the lower right-hand side that says Google Calendar, subscribe to this calendar. And if you click on that, it'll automatically add it to your list. Or you can browse through, let's look at what that looks like. So if you go under other calendars, you can browse interesting calendars. You can also add them by URL. So I can't remember how I added that particular one. Let's see. They don't show, it doesn't show up on, you can look for UAF. No. I may have added that by the URL, so I went to UAF and found that calendar and added it that way. So going back to the settings and embed this calendar and customize, let's see if it shows up now. Normally there's a little scroll here. And it's not going to give it to me. You may just have to take my word for it that it shows up here. Although I'm wondering if I'm... Here. Well, let's pretend that art grants and events is the UAF calendar. That's one I can share. So looking ahead, I have some of my, you can see first day of class, welcome to class, unit 1, unit 2. I've also got 64th parallel submissions are due this day, but for a student, if that was the UAF calendar, which normally I can see, I think it's just the display on projecting to this screen is minimizing my ability to see all those calendars on the left-hand side. So it would say something like first day of class, registration fees are due, last day to register for class, that sort of thing would be shown there. And I can specify the width and the height of the calendar, which might be important depending on where you're embedding it. You know, you can do some other customization there. And then you can copy the HTML and paste it in, and what you get is the calendar, just like here at the bottom of our presentation page here. And so I've done that here actually in the calendar on the presentation materials page. And so I have multiple calendars showing up here. This is our faculty development calendar, and then this is actually the UAF academic calendar showing there as well. Just to keep us all on track. Let's go back to calendar. Does anyone use labs for anything? Anything that's really great? So if we go into the settings, so if I just click on S for settings, one of the tabs up at the top is called Labs. And I don't think I have any turned on right now, but there's some interesting things in here that I play around with from time to time that just give you better functionality for various things. Like maybe a year view might be handy to be able to print that out sometimes. Let's turn that one on, and the next meeting I'll turn that one on. See what that looks like. And how about the world clock? So I'll enable all of those. And then they come over to this side panel here that is accessible through this little tiny triangle on the side. And there's a panel with the world clock, next meeting, and so on that's now available. So it's just handy. Yes.
I use my who's my one-on-one with, because sometimes people outside of my intimate group will send me one, and it'll be a generic meeting title. So it's nice to know who set it up or who invited, so that I have some context of what the meeting will be if it's something that I hadn't expected to come through.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I should play with that. Anybody else use anyone in particular that you find helpful? Yeah. So I do want to mention setting up appointment slots for meetings. So if you have conferences or student meetings or something that you have a whole day kind of reserved for a whole afternoon, and you want to set up appointment slots for students to contact you, whether that's by Hangout or come in person, you can create these appointment time slots where they can sign up specifically for a session that's however long you want it to be. So to do that, it won't work on the month view. It only works on the week view or the day view. So you have to go into the week or day, and then let's say on Tuesday, September 29th, from 9 to 2, I want to have meetings with people, and I want people to sign up for time slots. So I'm going to highlight that time frame, and then this appointment slots link will show up only if you're in the day or week view. And when you click on that, you can say offer slots of 30 minutes, or you have some choices there. And you can say student meetings. And I can say put it on my class schedule for my class and create slots. So now, when someone clicks on that, they're going to get this screen. They're not going to get the event details. But when they click on that particular event, they're going to get a slightly different screen. And which I can't see because I'm actually the creator of this. But if they're gonna be able to sign up for a 30-minute slot within this time frame. should have a screenshot of what that looks like. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, using your calendar offline. So if you travel a lot or even a little bit, it might be handy to use your calendar just to see what your events are coming up. You can turn that on in the settings. There's a little button called offline. So I have it turned on. And if you go into settings and click on that offline tab that'll show up once you turn it on, it will allow me to choose the calendars in particular that I want to have available offline, and all of the other calendars as well that I may just subscribe to. Now, when you get back online, if you're on your laptop, then any new events that you make will sync with your calendar. So you can view things, you can change things, you can add new events, and it will resync once you get back online. If you're using your mobile calendar app, and I'm not able to show it because the reflector thing wasn't working, but if you're using the Google Calendar app, and you can also view offline if you have it set up, but if you do any changes on the app, it won't resync. It just doesn't. So one thing to be aware of.
And you did that in the calendar settings.
Yeah, so if you go back to calendar, underneath the cog wheel, there's a little offline. You don't have it? Okay, then it's in the settings section, the general settings. And let's see. Do you have this link here?
No,
No.
I just have general calendars, mobile setup.
So underneath the cog, you don't have an offline section.
No, I just have settings, help labs, sync with mobile device, and feedback.
Okay. If you go into your settings, do you see it there?
I'm not seeing
That's strange. Are you on, what network are you on? UA. I'm pretty sure I set mine up by just clicking on here and clicking on the offline.
I don't have it either, Jim.
You don't have it either?
Yeah.
Dear. I'm afraid I did it so long ago that I can't remember it. Which button I clicked, where it was exactly. You do have to click on, in the mobile setup, you do have to do some customization there, put in your telephone number and verification code if you want to be able to use the calendar on your device and get notifications from calendar events on your device. So if you go through that process, and you can actually sync if you use an iPhone device, you can set up the iCal that's on the phone, the calendar app that's on the phone, to sync directly with and be the same, talk nicely with the Google Calendar app as well as your Google Calendar settings. And that you do inside the settings on the iPhone. You go into the calendar settings and you just add that account, whatever accounts that you want to add that functionality to, and then go into the calendar itself, and you should be able to see those calendars available.
I'm wondering whether it might also be a browser, because I was on Safari and not on Chrome.
Oh, you're right, Carol, you're right, thank you. I am on Chrome. It is only available on Chrome, the offline. It is a Chrome feature. Yes, thanks. Is there anything else that we should go over in this session? I hope all of the rooms aren't quite as warm as this one. I can't imagine our kids, hopefully they turn on the air handlers maybe.
I don't know if
during the school
you
year.
went over this. Can a calendar created under a K-12 North Star be shared with anyone who doesn't have K-12 North Star?
That's a good question. Let's try it.
Because if I wanted to put assignments or project due dates or something on a calendar and share it with parents and then show them that I shared it with them, that would be awesome.
Okay, so I'm probably not going to record this one because this is just, I have a guest access right now. So let's create a calendar or go into the guest account, calendar settings. So if I share this calendar to myself, see all events, make changes and manage sharing. Oh, how about just you wanted to make it public for parents?
Yeah, yeah, I guess that is what I wanted to do.
Okay, so let's say see all event, cancel that then. We want to make this calendar public is what we want to do. See all event details. Okay. Making all gives you a warning. Are you sure you want to do this? Yes.
Never mind.
Yes. Okay. So let's just put in a event for. Okay. So now let's go into the settings and get the sharing link. Let's see. So to get the link, calendar ID. Click on the HTML, and this is the actual link to the calendar. So now let's try this in a different browser. And we'll see if we can actually see it. Yes, the answer is yes, you can do it. Well, with my guest account access, which hopefully is probably more limited than yours as a teacher, then you should be able to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So it's 10:56 right now. The next session starts at 11, and so we are trying to give everyone a few minutes to get there and for all of us to get to the next session as well. So if you have a second at some point, it would be great if you could fill out the session evaluation at the bottom of the resource page here. And one last thing I didn't mention is that at the bottom of this presentation page, there are some resource links, including like keyboard shortcuts and ways to use Google Tasks, which I didn't even really have time to get into, but it's a special kind of calendar that you can turn on and off that just keep you on task and aren't necessarily anything that anyone else would need to be invited to. But there's also some ideas for lesson ways to use Google Calendar in different grade levels that might be of interest. So thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
If you have questions at any point, feel free to grab any of us.